Welcome to the Run Strong podcast.
Welcome.
A brand new podcast brought to you by InnerFight Endurance, which obviously sits in the umbrella of InnerFight. This is going out on the InnerFight podcast show for the first, I think it's our first 4 shows will go out.
Yeah, we're hijacking the show.
Hijacking the airwaves of the InnerFight podcast. Rob Jones.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes, there's 2 of us now, so we've replaced Marcus for 1 month. We're going to talk to you all things running, actually.
We are going to discuss running topics, and what we're trying to do is we just want to educate, we want to inspire, we want to pull in sort of a couch to 5k runners, we want to pull in some triathletes might be interested, more the running aspect obviously of triathlon.
Definitely.
All the way from multi-stage ultra runners, fast marathoners. We really want to make this show for all runners out there, and we want to make it very interactive. So we're going to sort of do the format of we're going to have a topic show, and then we're going to follow it up with the following show. The next week will be a Q&A show that hopefully people have got in touch with, and the topic has inspired or educated them, and they want to know a little bit more. Maybe they want us to dive in a little bit deeper into some other questions, and it sort of grew organically from the social channel, the IGTV of our InnerFight Endurance Instagram. Yeah,
so this show is going to replace what you did previously as your Instagram show, your 10-minute slots, wasn't it, every week?
Exactly.
So we're going to take the questions that have come into you, expand on them a little bit more. We can take questions that people post us every week at tracks or track sessions or in the gym or come through Instagram, and we can just expand. Yeah,
and we haven't got that time constraint of 10 minutes, sort of the countdown clock that means you have to rush answers. So it's exciting.
Because you like to talk, for sure.
I don't mind a chat every now and then.
You like to get a little bit geeky, so we can go into all that detail.
Exactly. So being sort of new, we've both been on the podcast show before.
Yeah.
But let's remind people a little bit about who we actually are. Rob, do you want to discuss a little bit about, I want to know running background and training history.
My running background. Okay, so I am Rob. I've been a member of the gym for 5, 6, 7 years now. Running in the background all of that time. My original background was endurance swimming, but transitioned to running when I moved to Dubai, and I focus pretty much solely on ultra running right now. Anything from, longer than marathon is what I would say. Longest being what I'm doing next week, a 250 kilometer multi-stage across Wadi Rum.
We're going to talk a bit about that later on. Yeah. That's going to be pretty epic.
What about you, Tom? Tell me about your endurance history.
Keep
it short.
Yeah. So it actually started probably early 20s. I used to play rugby a lot. Main sport was rugby.
How old are you now?
29.
9 years ago.
9 years ago. So yeah, and I actually jumped straight into ultras, actually. Did ultra running, and then started riding a bike a bit more, worked for a bike shop, and then started doing triathlons as well as ultra running, and then I realised the two don't suit that well.
Okay.
So I just focused purely on 70.3 Ironman and Ironman. And actually someone asked me this morning how many have I done, and I had to think. I think it's now around 20 odd half Ironman distances, and two Ironmans so far. So racking them up.
Very quick, I know this is going to be a question that some people do ask. What is the difference between a 70.3 Ironman and a full Ironman?
The full Ironman is a 3.9k swim, 180k bike, and a marathon, and then the half is half of that.
Which is 70.3
miles.
Yeah. So that's where people get confused. 70.3 is miles. Most of us work in kilometers. Confusion.
An Ironman branded, they took the 70.3 and branded it as a 70.3. Most people know it as middle distance.
There we go. So that's for some new people, just to get some terminology in there.
Learning already.
Awesome.
So a little bit more about us, sort of work history. Rob, I've said you've joined the coaching team.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your background, a little bit more. I mean, you're quite science-based as well.
Yeah, I grew up, university, I was doing optics at Glasgow. Qualified, started working, didn't like my job, so left very, very quickly, and then moved into teaching maths. So I've been teaching maths now for the last 9 years.
Yeah.
So very heavy stats-based, actually, so it's perfect for looking at data, programming runs, calculating things. And
it's true, but I think what you do very well is you align it with your teaching experience.
That's it.
Obviously having to get maths across to young children, you have to speak in a different way and pull things across, so you get a very nice soft approach, but to be able to back it up with the numbers that you know and the stats that you enjoy to look at.
Yeah. I think where I also have, I suppose, an added benefit is that I am a father. I've had a full-time job, and I have trained bloody hard in between all these things, and so I know it can be done. I'm not the full-time athlete and can't run a full-time athlete schedule, so realistic expectations, I think, is very good from my side.
And now you're a podcaster.
And now I'm a podcaster, that's it. I might put my Instagram likes up a bit.
Yeah, maybe get it in there. So yeah, and for me, I'm pretty much from a very different background to you. I've only ever done coaching since leaving school. Really, did the odd job, working around different places, but essentially from when I was 17, 18, I was coaching swimming actually to begin with, which is the one sport that I try and stay away from coaching now, but I do. And then just became a gym instructor, and then that's when my sort of journey began through coaching. So it's been nearly over 10 years now, and specifically endurance coaching since I was about 23, 24, which I just find so interesting. It's by far the most rewarding thing to be able to coach. Even being here, the few short months I have, the diversity and the different challenges that I get every day, it's staggering, but so fulfilling. Yeah. It's like being in the classroom, but with older people. Yeah. The same problems, to be honest, but yeah. And sometimes the clients can act like little children, but we have to deal with that in our own way. It's very true. It's very true. And one of the things, we've discussed starting this show for a while now, and we were on. We tend to have our meetings as long runs together, zone ones, and your zone one is faster than my zone one. There's still zone one in. We sort of both said to each other, I could almost feel like we need to start doing this, because we were both like, we want to be able to reach further out to people, not just with our clients and our guys who we can reach on Instagram, but sort of through a podcast and through a medium that lets us chat a little bit more, discuss things, and hopefully even if this just gives one person a spark to do something great or find out a little bit more to be able to help themselves do something better in their life, then absolute win. I think the idea as well is that the show is really going to work if people ask us questions. And there are lots of people that do ask questions, and lots of the questions will apply to people anywhere, whatever stage they are in their fitness. Some people might know the answers, but maybe just need a different spin on things. So that's hopefully what we're going to try and bring to you guys. People will ask questions, mate. I hope so. I hope so. Trust me. Right, that's us out the way. So we're gonna talk about two main topics today, and then we have actually got a question already. A question we're gonna get and chat through. Pre-show question. And then we're kind of handing it over, like we just said, to you guys to get in and ask us the questions ready for the next show, essentially. So the first talking point, and it's quite an interesting one. It's got some amazing stats come out of it. The World Champs, mate. The marathon that's just gone on in Doha. Marathon that's just happened. Okay, so a bit of background. It is the IAAF World Championships at the minute in Doha, in Qatar. International Athletic something Federation. Association Federation? Oh. Association. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. Anyway, so nobody cares about who runs the brand. But anyway, it is the World Championships in Doha. They started the marathon at midnight for a start. Yeah. The women's marathon. The men's marathon is yet to happen. It's going to happen next week, I think, on the 5th of November, something like this. Anyway, so they started the marathon, 31 degrees, 70% humidity at midnight. I think the dropout rate was something like 40%. 28 of the 68 women dropped out of the race for different reasons, mainly due to heat and humidity issues. The winning time was a Kenyan woman called Ruth. Let me check this name here. Ruth Chepgetich. I've butchered that. Give it another go. Apologies. You have a go. Chepgetich. Okay. Kenyan woman. With a time of 2 hours 32:43. Now I know lots of the guys at home are thinking, bloody hell, that's pretty fast for a marathon. She ran in Dubai in January at 2:17. Wow. So we're talking basically 15 minutes slower for a professional athlete for a marathon, which is huge. That is huge. Absolutely huge. Now, I think the main issue with this marathon was the rest of the athletics is being run in indoor climate-controlled stadiums. But for the marathon, they didn't want to run around a track, so they had to run it outside, which is where all the issues have happened. Do you think track marathon would have been pretty epic? I think that would have been really, really good. It'd be hard to follow, but... Because we've just... actually just come off another show of the InnerFight podcast, speaking with Boz about her games experience, and we're talking a bit about what's fair. Like, to be classed as the world championship marathon runner, you should be able to run in any conditions the fastest marathon, right?
You'd say so, yeah.
You'd say so. So, do you think? I mean, I would love to know what would happen if they declared it was going to be on a track.
I think all hell would break loose. But I suppose the interesting thing is this has kicked up a storm because everyone knew it was going to be in Doha. Everyone knew it would be hot. Everyone knew they would be running outside.
Yeah.
They knew the start time. So were they ill prepared for their race?
Sounds like it, doesn't it?
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like it. If you know all the variables. We've got a similar thing with the World Championships yesterday in the cycling in Yorkshire. Everyone complained because it rained. Well, you're in Yorkshire in September.
Yeah.
It's likely going to rain.
Probably going to rain.
North England. So you've got to prepare for all things that might come. The one thing they know here is it's going to be hot and it's going to be humid. So get your heat training done, and when it starts to get hard, know that you need to either slow down, back off a little bit just to finish, or you pull out. And obviously most people just thought, all right, I'm not in with a contention here. I'm gonna back off and pull out.
Save themselves a bit.
Time of day, they're tired. It's going to be 1, 2 in the morning.
Yep. By the time they finish,
Mindset-wise, they must have been really fatigued, like mental drainage fatigue. You can sleep all you want during the day, but your body, once it gets into its circadian rhythm, is going to switch off at those sort of times. That's sort of dead of night time is really hard to push through. So it is surprising, but when you actually look at all the things, how they've added up, maybe it's not. And for her to win with a 2:32, I mean, I wonder what, I haven't looked, but I wonder what her reaction for it was. Whether she said that, well, that was actually all right. I didn't have to push to win, so that's why it was slow.
Well, I had a look at some of her interviews, and she said, I don't know why everyone was complaining. I knew it was in Doha. I knew it would be hot, so I was training in Dubai to prepare for the heat. So I think her training leading up to the race was well suited for the conditions. Maybe nobody else thought that far ahead. I don't know. It's an interesting point, or an interesting set of results. And we'll see, really, I suppose, what happens with the men in a few days' time. Maybe we can mention that later on in a future show.
Yeah, we'll pick that up and see what happened. I've got a question for you on that, mate. If you know a race is starting at midnight, would you change your habits to start? Would you train at midnight, or would you look after your recovery and work on getting better sleep ready for the race, and just saying on the day I'm just going to spend more time in bed and stay as relaxed as I can, ready for a midnight race? Or would you say, no, I'm racing at midnight, so I'm going to train at midnight?
For me, well, I suppose this is going to play down to all the factors that influence day-to-day life. For me, I suppose I would just train as normal. I do some night runs, so I'm aware of how I'm going to feel. The days leading up, I try and be as relaxed as possible, well, as best I could. And on the day, try and nap through the day if I could. I know it's going to be hard, but just probably accept it's going to be a slower race. It's going to be harder, and everyone is going to be suffering from the same thing. So as a professional, it's slightly different because their sole purpose is to perform. So they should maybe switch their schedule.
Yeah, I know in the boxing and MMA community, the UFC and things like that, those shows, because they're pay-per-view, they obviously got to be on at nighttime.
That's right.
People to watch. So they shift their sleeping training patterns to be starting. If you're on the main card, say your main fight is going off at, I think they start 11 to midnight, and you don't actually know who's going to be how long before it gets there, because some fights might be a lot longer, some might be a lot shorter.
Yeah. It's going to be very stressful as well for the fighters.
Yeah, then you've got to think you've got to get your warm-up in, you've got to get your pre-nutrition in, so they shift their whole schedule later on in the evening. And I've always wondered, because obviously our sort of races can start very early in the morning, and there's always a way up whether you start waking up at what time you're going to wake up on race day 3-4 days before, or whether you just say, no, I'm going to bank the sleep that I need to recover and be optimal to perform, and on race day you're going to wake up and you're going to be ready to go anyway because you've got adrenaline and things like that.
Well, that was one of the things that I really suffered from, I think, in the UTMB Oman race last year. Was the start time was at 7 p.m. I was still a teacher at the time, so I'd been working all morning, left at lunchtime to drive to the race. And then I think Marcus drove me. We got there about 35 minutes before the start.
I remember the group chat panic.
A little bit of stress, as you can imagine, from my end as well. I had to get my race bag checked, do all the kit, pack it ready for running for 35 hours, and then it was almost 3, 2, 1, go. Not the best of preparations, but sometimes that's just life, isn't it?
Sometimes you're dead right, mate. It is. Sometimes it is just life. But
that won't happen this year.
Yeah, this year will change it a little bit. It would. I reckon you wouldn't be able to give a solid answer to that, because I think it would depend on so many factors for so many different people. But like you say, for the pro guys, they should know exactly what is coming up and what's happening.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to the coaches a bit more, ask them about how they prep them.
One interview I read from, I can't remember who the coach was now, I need to fact check this, but he basically said that the entire thing was ridiculous. All 3 of his athletes dropped out, the 3 women. Again, I don't know the names, I need to fact check that. But he was basically saying it's ridiculous that they ran a race in these conditions at this time. But again, he would have been well prepared. He would have known that this was happening. He should have trained his athletes for those conditions. Yep,
I 100% agree. I don't know what we sort of think marathon running. I think men's has obviously got quite a higher status, but like I haven't heard that much of it over here. It hasn't been covered. I'm not really in the mainstream news over here, but has there been much coverage of the marathon over here? Will people have stayed up to watch it? Would it have been that big of an event?
I don't. Again, I have BBC TV here. I've been watching the rugby.
yeah.
And then just following the highlights afterwards of the World Championships. But I think from what I've read, the crowds aren't as big as they could be, so it's been quite tough on the athletes. The stadiums are quite empty. Which is a real shame. I think maybe there just isn't the population in Doha at the minute to fill the stadiums, where if they were in London or if they're in Dubai even, just somewhere a bit closer with a bit more of a
Can't
hub.
imagine that big of a crowd being out there.
No, not to see a marathon at midnight anyway.
But that can change the dynamic of a race as well. If you tend to like to race off crowds and things, or even afterwards, if you come away from a race experience, and even if you've come 10th or 20th or way down in the field, but you've had a great experience, then you're going to talk highly of it.
Yeah.
If their athletes are done really well, and suddenly we're seeing amazing times and things for the humidity and heat, and because they started at midnight, suddenly it's the best idea, and all hot races should start later on in the night. And so it sounds like they've just come away with a bad taste in their mouth, and so then therefore they've knocked it. And
you look at the footage of the Berlin Marathon that's just happened as well, and the crowds are all throughout the course, and the vibe just looks fantastic.
Yeah.
So compare that to Doha, it's
anyway, we've got a new world champion in the women's. Ruth, congratulations.
Well done.
By the way, IAAF is International Association of Athletics Federations.
International Association of Athletic Federation. Good fact checking.
Fact checked that.
Thank you.
Good. Right, Rob, you're going to talk a little bit about Ultra X Jordan now, because I'm going to have to try and fix my laptop before it shuts down on me. You're heading off this Saturday.
Yeah. So this Saturday, me and I think just over 150 runners will be in Wadi Rum in Jordan to run a 5-day multi-stage ultra across hard sand, soft sand, mountains, you name it, it's there. The event is organised by Ultra X. It's quite a niche, small, new and up-and-coming multi-stage brand out of the UK, run by 2 lovely English gentlemen.
I'm back. Yeah, they're super nice guys, actually,
really
with a really nice vision for what they want.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about that on a bigger picture. They think they can create the World Championships of ultra running.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Yeah, and so the model's quite unique. In fact, it's probably one of the cheapest multi-stage ultra races out there. Small twist in that you don't have to carry what you need for the entire race. They'll drop that from camp to camp for you. You just need to carry what you need for the day. There's still a weight allowance. You get 12 kilos of luggage total, so you've got to put all your food, etc., rehydrated food in there.
It's like Emirates.
It's like Emirates. Or EasyJet. And they just carry it, and then you run with what you need for the day. So the races are probably going to be slightly faster. The stages are still 250 kilometers. They're still super challenging. There's still a long day in the middle. But yeah, you just only have to carry minimal kit for the day and your water and what you need to eat for the race.
That makes it more of a running race opposed to an
Exactly.
adventure survival race,
Yeah.
would you say?
Definitely. I think it's going to make it a lot more competitive. It's going to be my first one of these style of races. And we're taking 14 clients from Dubai, UK, Australia, all over there.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Got quite a
talk
big field.
to you first about your plan.
My plan. I don't want to put this on the airways.
Mate, it comes out
Secret plan.
day before you start. This comes out
Yeah.
Sunday the 6th,
Okay.
and you're starting on Monday the 7th.
So none of the guys I'm racing against will hear this.
Yeah, you won't hear this. You are still fairly fresh off UTMB.
I know.
UTMB 101k.
Yeah.
Which we talked about. We had you on the last Q&A show on the
Indeed.
InnerFight Endurance Instagram account, IGTV. Go and check that out. But so, tell us, how's the legs? How's your training been in between? What does your training look like between then and now?
So between then and now, it's been really interesting actually. I changed coaches post UTMB.
Should we ask into that or not?
No, I think we'll leave that as you can ask me in person if you want. I don't think we'll put that out in the podcast. But my training's changed. So basically, I have changed how much I have been running. I thought I would be running a lot less post race. I've actually upped the volume more than I would have expected personally. So, for example, today, 1 week out, I was 20k on the treadmill. But the pace was fairly relaxed. So I've been doing more running. I've still been keeping the tempo work in. I've still been keeping the speed work in. But everything's just been dialed back a little bit in intensity.
When you're talking about tempo and speed work for an ultra,
Yeah.
give us an idea. You don't have to tell us your paces, but give us an idea of what that means. So, like, tempo for a marathoner is like 10k pace.
Yeah.
What are you calling tempo? What are you calling speed work?
I've actually still been doing my tempo at 10k pace.
Fast tempos.
Fast tempos, but the tempos have been decreased in length. So they've been quite short. The longest I think I've done is 1k tempos.
Okay.
And yeah, so then my speed work has obviously been our Tracks Tuesday, which has been great. And again, I've just dialed back the pacing on that a little bit. I've been doing lots of recovery work, so I've been doing ice baths and foam rolling, lots of the run strong stretching and flexibility work, lots of lower leg work. And to be honest, I feel in really, really good shape.
Yeah?
And actually, I'm the lightest I've ever been as well.
It's pretty epic, eh?
Yeah, exactly. So I feel really strong going into this race.
Excellent. And how's the mind been coming out of UTMB? And
I'm obviously, I went into UTMB knowing I have this race and then another one after it. So there's been no rest in terms of reflect, think about, sort of have a break and then come back into it. It's sort of been finish, right, process, how did it feel, what went well, what could I do better, go.
Yeah.
I've actually quite enjoyed that.
Enjoyed that.
I've enjoyed it. But then I knew a long time ago that this was how the races were going to be stacked. So I've been looking forward to them in this order, if you like.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm super excited.
Nice.
It's going to be really good.
And then you've been training. How many athletes have you got going? I think we've got 14 in total, and about 9 belong to you. Is that right?
Yeah. No, I think Marcus is winning.
Is he winning?
Yeah, I think he's winning.
I can't believe that.
I know.
All right. Well, I wanted to ask you a little bit because I think some people would be interested to know.
I think I've got 5.
Okay, still a decent number to look at. What's their training plan? Obviously, it's hard to say because you don't know where they've come from, where they're going to. We won't sort of talk about them in too much detail there.
So
but
getting them ready to go to Jordan.
Ready for Jordan.
Right,
So it's 5 days.
Yes.
We roughly know it's about a marathon a day, isn't it?
It's a marathon a day, longer than a marathon a day actually, I think. And then the longest day is 67 sandwiched in the middle. Day 3.
So tell us what's an average? What's a training? Let's go with 2 weeks. Give us a 2-week block for these guys. How is it looking?
2-week block. Well, actually, the way we've got the Dubai guys set up, depending on what they do, they'll have long, steady runs throughout the week. They might range, depending on their job and their situation, anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. Just an easy run, let's say.
Yeah.
They're focusing maybe on a lower heart rate or a lower speed, building their aerobic base. And that's sort of almost like the staple, the bread and butter. if you have a meal, you have your carbohydrates, your proteins, your fats. You always have one of those in your training week. We've got some speed work. So what we've been doing, actually, we've adjusted their Track Tuesday sessions.
Yeah, I like this.
You like this?
Ultra track.
Ultra track. So what we found was in the normal Track Tuesday sessions, not that they weren't very good. I know you programmed them.
Thank you.
So they are very, very good sessions. But they aren't quite long enough for the ultra guys. And we felt that was almost a missed opportunity in the day of running. Yeah,
I think because when we started that and we said about it, I actually thought, do you know what? Because they are all working full-time professional people working as well. So you sort of have to get as much as you can out of each day. And it was like Tuesdays, we know it's going to be a really intensive morning. And ideally, what I get some of my guys to do is to bank it up with some miles later on in the day. Super easy, 40 up to 90-minute recovery run on tired legs after a working day with a bit of mental fatigue. But some guys have got families, they've got work commitments till late. Yeah. So that Track Tuesday was not a wasted session, but it wasn't giving them the most they could get from a day.
Yeah, I mean, some days, you take the warm-up and you do the sessions, maybe only 6-7 kilometers, but it's intense.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we sandwich on a really decent warm-up, so they arrive 30 minutes before everybody and they get maybe 4.5-5 kilometers in of really steady running, and we tail end a little cool down run, if you like. So again, once the session's finished, they add in some extra Ks at the end and it just brings up the total volume. And then more recently, we've been making some of the shorter intervals that you've been programming, the 100-meter sprints or the 100-meter efforts, or even 200 that we're doing this week.
Yep.
We've changed some of those sessions to slightly longer interval work for those guys. Again, not because it's not useful. Obviously the 100-meter sprints are good, but it's not quite what they need at this stage so close to the race.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And another thing...
except for the finish line, obviously. Race across the finish line, that's very handy.
True. Another point on that is, for those who have done an ultra will understand or gone through the training process, is by the end of your training, or at least once you've finished your base period, you don't actually feel that warmed up or ready to run until 30 to 40 minutes into run anyway. It can take a little bit longer for your engine to get warmed up, especially after the long weekends these guys are doing.
Yeah.
So that's been a really nice addition to their plan. And then what else have they been doing, mate, on...
Keep
how
going.
do you get how do they get the mileage done?
Our weekends here in Dubai are the Friday, Saturday, so the bulk of those miles for these guys might be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and even sometimes a Sunday run.
Yeah.
So we've been doing a few things actually. Because they're quite a close-knit group of guys, we send them all out to the mountains, or we'll all go. So this weekend we did 25k. There was 20 of us.
Yeah, there's a lot of you
in the mountains, all running together. Different paces. Some guys did slightly less, some guys did slightly more. So we'll do a 25k in the mountains, and then we'll head to the desert on a Saturday, and we'll do 2, 3, 4 hours there. And then maybe on a Sunday we just give them a little bit more volume. So it might be again a 12k, a 13k, a 14, maybe up to 16 kilometers. And they're getting that good block of distance in. There's no set, if you like, go this speed or this pace. It's social running. It's what they need. They go fast, they go slow, they go up, they go down, different terrains, different temperatures, different times.
Yeah.
And to be honest, when it's all driven about the numbers, sometimes you can get so bogged down with, am I running at this speed, am I running at this heart rate? They don't even look at that. They just get out, get the distance done, and then they all have a good time, have a good chat.
And you've got to learn through doing for ultra running.
Exactly,
nutrition especially, and how you are on poor sleep and things like that. That's awesome, mate. So yeah, we're going to have 14 guys over there. I mean, it must be... I don't imagine there's many other endurance teams out there sending that many guys into races like this. So I think it's absolutely epic.
If there are, I'd love to know.
Yeah, it'd be great.
We'd love to hook up and have a chat with those guys. That'd be class.
Organise one big ultra training camp together. That'd be epic. Good. So yeah, all the best to those guys. Starting tomorrow.
We'll let you know. How they get on.
Yeah. Right, mate. We actually got a question this week.
So I'm going to pose this question to you.
It's coming over.
This is coming geeky. So the question is, it's from a client. Actually, they asked me the other day, and they said, do you know the formula to calculate how much water we should take after training? So I guess they're asking about sweat rate or sweat rate calculations.
Yeah.
And this, I suppose, it's a question that I wanted to ask you because the question got me thinking. I was like, actually, I don't know what my sweat rate is. I don't know how much fluid I do sweat during a run. So I did a little test. I went I did my training session this morning, 20 kilometers on a treadmill. It took me an hour and 30 minutes. I weighed myself before. I was 85 kilograms. Weighed myself after, and I was 83.1.
Winning, lost weight.
I lost weight whilst running.
Pay me my money. I've got you to lose weight.
So tell me about that. What has happened to my body when that's happened? Because I had my banana, I had my post-recovery stealth protein gel, and I had my what's it called? My 600 mils of water whilst I was running, but I still managed to lose 2.7 kilos.
Yeah, well, your body's sweat rate is a response to getting hot.
Okay.
Which obviously we have a lot of here. But anyway, in gyms you tend to get hot anyway, and obviously start sweating, and it's the first thing your body will turn to lose heat.
Mm-hmm.
If you were following the InnerFight channel last week, I did a coach on heat adaptation and how the body has different ways of dissipating heat. And so, yeah, go and check that out. It's on the InnerFight Instagram channel. Go down to one of the posts and it'll be in IGTV, and then you click through to a link to watch that. But in terms of your case, mate, so we've got a loss of 2.66 kilo.
2.68. I did the maths.
Done the maths for me.
Obviously.
So what's important with this is you weigh in and weigh off in the same nude. Basically, you should be.
Do you know what? Small disclaimer. I stayed in my shorts. I had my shoes and socks off. Had no shirt on. So my shorts actually would have been saturated afterwards as well.
Actually you may have lost even a little bit more.
Probably lost a little bit more. But do you know what? There was nowhere to be seen 2.66 kilos of sweat on the floor.
They're in your shorts, mate. That's why.
They're in my shorts.
So yeah, if we took your blood and we stuck it in a centrifuge, which spins it around really, really fast, and all the heavy stuff goes to the bottom and all the light stuff rises to the top.
Yeah.
And so you've got like red blood cells. Mainly red blood cells going to the bottom of your blood, and then what's above it is like a clear liquid. Like blood is red as we know it, but actually it's not when you look at it. And from a centrifuge point of view, it's clear basically, and that is called blood plasma, and that's your blood plasma volume, and that contains your electrolytes that we will know about. And so when you start to sweat, that is what's coming out. It's water and electrolytes basically, but it also lowers your blood plasma volume. That is what you're losing as you are sweating. And what we advise and what most of the research says is you should rehydrate with 1.5 times the amount of water that you've lost or fluid that you've lost.
Okay.
So this is why a sweat rate test is quite important to do. And the way you do it is you weigh yourself in nude, or as nude as you can be without getting arrested.
The gym guys will be happy about that.
And then you exercise. What I tell people to do is to exercise in the normal environment they're going to be exercising in, and to exercise at a target heart rate that's quite sustainable for them, that they will do on average through their week.
So what would you say for that? So like an easy run paced heart rate, or?
I'd say moderate to aerobic to moderate.
Aerobic to moderate.
Yeah.
So not easy,
it's
not
going to be high
hard.
end zone 2.
Okay.
It's going to be maybe MAF plus a few beats if people are looking like that.
So MAF, for those guys that are new to the podcast, your MAF heart rate is 180, subtract your current age.
Correct.
So take that heart rate, add a few beats, and you run for that heart rate.
That's your all-day heart rate pace. A little bit above that, or if you're more in your zone system, then zone 2, high-end zone 2, knocking on the door of zone 3.
So how long would you run at that pace for?
I would say an hour.
Just
then you know your sweat rate per hour.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Otherwise, you could do half an hour and double it, but it doesn't quite work out that way.
Because you never sweat the same at the start as you do towards the end of the run, right?
Take an average over your hour.
Okay.
So then you do your run, you consume whatever you feel you need to consume, you come off, you don't go to the toilet.
Right.
Most people need to pee, they go straight to the toilet.
Don't go to the toilet.
If you do, pee in a cup, and you hold it with you while you weigh yourself.
It's getting interesting.
So yeah, then you take your pre-weight, then you take your post-weight, you add on your post-weight, what you've consumed, and then you get your loss. So your loss was 2.66. You know you've had a 60-gram gel, which would have weighed 60 grams. You've had 600 ml of water, which would have weighed
600
grams. And
one banana, let's say about 100 grams. That's what I guessed it at.
Do you reckon? I don't know.
Take the skin off. You see, I don't eat the skin.
True. So you would then take that 2.66, convert it into litres.
Okay.
So 2.6.
2.6 litres, yeah.
2.66.
Yeah.
And then times it by 1.5.
Okay.
Go on then, math teacher.
That's the pressure. 2.6 plus 1.3. 3.9.
So there you go. So for the rest of your day, obviously that's not straight away that you would consume that, but through the rest of your day, you need to aim to have
3.9 litres on top.
No, 3.9
just 3.9 litres total water to replace what I've lost, and then to give me the thermodynamic effects post run.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, having cold water will cool you down post run, but basically, for you to get your blood plasma volume back up to standard, ready to perform again for the next day, that would be your target intake.
So would you, for that then, would you advise people to just have water? Would you get them to add some electrolytes in, or just do what they normally do? Because you're probably going to get salts from your food and your snacks and whatever you're normally eating, right?
So
do you need extra?
Yeah, this is where a sweat test in a lab can be very helpful, is it can actually give you your sodium concentration. And I think I'm right in saying your sodium concentration of sweat doesn't change that much.
Okay.
So
depending on where you are, you mean conditions inside or outside?
Exactly. If you're sweating, and there's no difference whether you're inside, you'll sweat more sodium, or if you're outside, you'll sweat more sodium.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there's no difference from 2 years ago, I was a high sodium sweater, and now I'm not. That you will be. If you're a high sodium sweater, you're a high sodium sweater.
It's just the way you're built, and there's no way you can affect that.
Exactly, mate.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that is true. I think I'm right in saying that. But what you sort of, I don't know how to say it. I'm going to say an amateur way of knowing, but an easier way of not going to a lab and getting a proper sweat test done is if you tend to have a lot of salt on your clothes after running, after sweating, or you can taste it on your lips, then you're quite a high sodium sweater. In which case, you need to have electrolytes in your fluids. Yeah, post running. Most people need it because you've got in that blood plasma volume a lot of electrolytes within it, and if you're not replacing them, they affect everything in the body.
Okay.
So, not all of that 3.2 was it?
3.9.
3.9 liters needs to be electrolytes. But I would say at least
maybe have one electrolyte tablet or salt just post run, and then that's that taken care of, and then throughout the day you're sipping the rest of the loss, if you like, the volume loss.
Yeah. And you've got to remember the electrolytes come in your food as well, so a little bit more salt in your food. And certain foods that contain higher amounts of it as well anyway.
There we go.
So it's quite a lot. It's when you actually think about it, and so you're looking at 2.66, that's per hour. Oh no, it was 90 minutes.
That was 90 minutes, yeah.
So it'd be interesting to do your hourly sweat rate.
I'm going to have to go and redo it, actually. I could redo it and see.
Do a proper one. I did one with Haysom a few months ago, and he was a real high sweater.
Really?
And
I think I've always been quite a high sweater. It's very well, whenever I did the CrossFit and things like that, and ever working out, I'm always sweating. I was sweating a warm up. If you see me at track, you look at me. What the hell's he just done? I've just gone for a 30-minute run. So I think I'm quite a high sweater anyway. But until you calculate it like that, I would never have thought I would need to take that much after a run. I suppose as well, when you run longer, you're going to sweat more.
To a point.
Then what happens?
There's a point where you do stop sweating. Your body can't afford to lose any more blood plasma volume than it has.
Okay.
So it will shut that off.
Right.
Obviously, then it becomes harder to lose heat, so you'll slow down and your performance decreases.
So what would you advise then for some of the guys that are running longer, so ultra marathons or marathons, something that maybe is taking them 3, 4, 5 hours? Let's say, for example, the guys going to Jordan are going to be running 60, 70k in the desert. They might take 10, 11, 12 hours. There's no way they can replace that much liquid post-run.
No, you can't. So you need to be very smart with what you're doing while you're running.
Yeah.
You obviously can't replace it. And there's a difference between, this is why a one-day race is so different to a multi-stage.
Yeah.
Because actually, in a marathon, say, you'll aim, or you should be depleted the top guys are coming in between 8 to 10%
Mhm.
dehydration levels. It's like, that's how much body weight they lose. It's epic.
That's incredible.
But you might say, well, maybe that's the reason why they're winning, because they're getting lighter as they're going,
yeah.
and they don't need to think about training the next day. So they're just absolutely burying themselves and not worrying about rehydrating as they're going.
Mhm.
Some people actually stop too much to take on water and hydration in a marathon, and it can cause stomach upset. And it's like, why?
Overhydrated.
Yeah.
Right?
Hyponatremia.
Hyponatremia.
Yeah, where you dilute the salt basically in your body, the electrolytes in your blood. So, yeah, when it comes to multi-stage, that's when you got to be very smart and start thinking more about, okay, what basically is the minimal I can get away with. If you're coming in after a stage race and you're more than 3% down in terms of body weight, then you've lost too much.
Okay.
So you should aim to be 2 to 3% within your hydration status each evening, basically.
So that's quite impractical for the guys, though, that are camping out and doing things like that, because they're not going to have a set of scales with them. So quite a lot of it's going to have to be based on, I guess, feel. I know when I've done, let's say when I was back teaching, when I've done a really hard, really long run in the morning, or it's been super hot and I've sweated a lot, in work I feel drowsy, I feel lethargic, and it's
Dry eyes.
And it's just, normally if I have an electrolyte and a bit more water, that clears it up. And I can tell that something's not quite right. I'm not going to the bathroom as much, and when I do, it's Iron Brew orange, or it's
graphic.
It's not clear. I think that's a good indicator as well, isn't it? Straight
Very
away.
good. Yeah, your pee is good. Yeah.
Your pee. So when you wake up in the morning, you're obviously dehydrated. Your pee's orange. You have your glass of water, at least 500 mils, and next pee you have, it's clear.
Clear. Should be clear.
That's how you should be living your life.
But this is the beauty, mate, of knowing your sweat rate. So if let's look at yours a bit more again, and we say, okay, that's 90 minutes. Let's say your sweat rate is actually like 2 kilograms is what you lost, so it's 2 liters per hour. Then you've run, Jordan, you've gone 4 hours. You can roughly work out, okay, I need to take on at least a liter an hour, so that you finish at the end of the day with like a much more reasonable deficit of like 4 liters than it being 8.
So the sweat rate doesn't take into account what you consume throughout your run, if you like.
Well, it does.
Or
You add it on at the end.
You add it on, but then you could pre-empt that and then consume that during.
Exactly.
There we go.
Preload.
Yeah. So the longer you run, the more fluid you'll take in. If you predetermine your sweat rate, you can consume that volume whilst you're running, and then it doesn't mean you have to sink 12 liters of water after your session. Yeah.
And obviously people might say, well, why don't I just drink all I need to during a session?
Okay.
You will get, try it. Basically, try it or don't. But you'll get extreme bloating.
Yeah.
You'll likely get this hyponatremia effect. It'll affect your digestion, and you've got to carry it. Like, that's a pain. I know my sweat rate's 1 liter an hour, so I'm going to consume 1500 mil during my run. Well, that's a lot to consume. That's 2 750 ml bottles. If you think about that in 1 hour, it's just not comfortable for most people.
Yeah, definitely not. I think that's the question wrapped up. I think that's a good answer. Thank you for that. That was a really good question, actually.
It was a good question for the first one. So we need more. We need you to send them in for next week. Hopefully we've kicked off some ideas in your head. The topic this week has mainly been on the marathon in Doha, the World Championships, and how people dealt with that. And then the question on sweat rate. So, yeah, people, get your questions in.
Thank you.
What you need to know more of.
I know what we need to talk about before we finish.
Something very important.
Project DXB.
Yes.
Before we wrap up. What is... okay, give us 30 seconds, Tom. Tell me about Project DXB. 30 seconds. Go.
30 seconds. Project DXB is a life-changing training event happening towards Dubai 10K or marathon. It starts on November the 1st, and it runs 12 weeks exactly up to the marathon. We ran it last year. We had 12 runners, 12 weeks.
Okay.
We split them 10K and marathon. This year, we're doubling up. So we've got 24 runners, 12 for marathon, 12 for 10K. Wow. It is now open to apply for, and it closes on October the 10th. So if you want to apply, endurance at InnerFight.com.
And then when you send in when you register your interest, we'll send you back a feedback form that lasts lots of questions.
Big questionnaire.
Big questionnaire about your life to see if you're suitable. And then once the applications close on the 10th, me and you'll sit down and we'll select.
Exactly. So it's really important. if you want to know how to answer the questionnaire, go back to the InnerFight podcast we did on Project DXB, which came out last Thursday, which would have been the 25th, something like that. Anyway, it's like 2 or 3 podcasts back on the InnerFight show. It's called Project DXB 2020, and that tells you all about what we're after.
There we go.
Awesome, mate. We're back. The next one, you literally fly in from Jordan in the morning, don't you?
Jordan, and I'll be back. I don't know if I'll be standing. I probably will be standing. But yeah, I'll come straight out Jordan. We can do a Jordan wrap up if you like, or we can fill you in on that.
Yeah.
And hopefully you've got some good questions as well that we can answer, and we'll be jam packed ready for the next show.
Epic, mate. All the best for Jordan.
Thank you very much.
I can't wait to ask you all the questions when you're back.
Thank you. Well, now I know my sweat rate, I'll be able to drink enough.
All right, thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you, guys.